Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
This is the Farm for Profit Podcast. We enjoy being out here in California. First time ever at the World Ag Expo. Been here the last 2 days. And the conversations that we get to have been a lot different. We come from Iowa. We came from corn and soybean country out here, and our rows are straight, just like your rows are straight. Yours are just much wider apart because it's neat to see the trees and the vines and the fruits and vegetables that have been grown in this region. So our goal today is to learn a little bit about our guests today and the Sonoma County wine growers, as well as more of the individual stories. We're going to talk a little bit here, get some good information. So if you are walking around the booth out here in John Deere underneath the tent, come on in and sit down. Take a load off, give your feet a rest, and learn along with us. Again, the Farm for Profit Podcast can be found anywhere that you download your podcasts. We enjoy having listeners from across the world, as well as you and our friends here out in California.
Well, I'm a little disappointed, though, because we brought you some Sonoma County wine, and there is no corn in front of us. So
we filled our suitcases to the point to where we had to leave. Well, we stuffed one of our suitcases that was overweight, took cords out, shoved them into Corey's backpack. We will have to plan a lot better.
What's your favorite corn? Would it be like a bourbon?
I like mine beverage style, absolutely.
We can certainly do that and plan ahead. Hopefully they have us back next year. We've been having a good time.
That's great.
It does sound
It's still tingy.
just a little hot. So good thing we got Dave with us as well. So I think we're going to go ahead and launch into this, let Dave catch up. He's certainly going to be able to hear as things are put together. So let's start off with an introduction. So we have Karissa and Steve here.
Yep.
Looking forward to getting to know. So we'll start off with ladies first. Karissa, why don't you let the audience know who you are?
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Karissa Kruse. I am from Sonoma County. I am currently the CEO of the Sonoma County Wine Growers, which is a trade association that works on behalf of our 1,800 grape growers, farmers in Sonoma County. 1,800. I have 1,800 bosses.
In
I
one
know.
county?
In one county, 1,800 bosses. And I'm here with my main boss who, I love everything about farming, and then I fell in love with a farmer. So I am all things farming now. And I'm here with my husband, Steve Dutton, who is... Well, his brother hired me 12 years ago in this role, and so he's been my Uber boss, but then now I married the brother, so there you go.
My.
It's all complicated in farming, right? I mean, the farming part's easy. It's everything else that's hard.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Well, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself?
So I'm Steve Dutton. I'm a farmer from Sonoma County, fifth generation Sonoma County farmer. My family has grown everything that's been profitable in Sonoma County that you can grow, and right now my brother and I farm 1,200 acres of certified sustainable wine grapes and 300 acres of certified organic apples in Sonoma County. We're actually the biggest apple farmer left in Sonoma County.
Wow.
So, and we, all fresh fruit that we harvest and deliver, and the apples go to one cannery that's left in Sonoma County, gets made into organic apple sauce, organic apple juice, or organic apple cider vinegar. And our grapes get sold to 90 different wineries. So lots of wineries would be all over the U.S.
Wow. That
production.
90 different. These numbers are big.
And has it always been apples and grapes?
For my career, yes. My father, though, when he started, he farmed prunes, which would be plums that you dry into a prune. So he farmed those for years, and we did that until I was probably 14 or 15. And then that business just went away. It became unprofitable in Sonoma County to do that. He also farmed pears for years, and that also became unprofitable. So the only two crops that became viable in Sonoma County for us were apples and wine grapes at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Andy's got a famous TV show, or is a part of a TV show. How much fan mail do you get on accident?
So I get asked a lot about, do I have family in Montana? That must be great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's actually fictional Dutton Ranch. It's not. Yeah. We own the real Dutton Ranch out in Sonoma County, and start telling people about that. So It did help me, though, one time on a flight, on a long flight to Europe. the stewardess noticed my jacket said Dutton Ranch and asked me about it. And I said, I actually farm. And so I think I got extra drinks on that farm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that worked out well.
Exploit it.
He does get a lot of extra attention with that. I don't know. But yeah, he likes confirming that he is the real Dutton Ranch and he actually farms.
Yes,
So.
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So does anybody ever pull up to the ranch thinking that they're all confused, even though
we had someone call and wanted to come stay. They wanted to stay at the ranch. Yeah, well, hey, we want to rent the stay in one of your accommodations or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking
They're
about.
like, but we know you have accommodations now. The show's offered that, and there's like the website. And he's like, it's the wrong state and the wrong ranch. And
you call yourself a super fan?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I said, of course, I'm happy to have you come visit, but I got no place for you to stay. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll put you to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys brought us some gifts. Explain what's in front of us here.
So,
Go ahead, Steve.
we brought you, I also own a small winery with a partner, Dan Goldfield, who's a winemaker. So I grow the grapes, he makes the wine, and this is my brand called Dutton Goldfield, and you guys are drinking Pinot Noir from Sonoma County, from the Russian River Valley, AVA of Sonoma County, and it's grapes that I grow on we probably have 60 different sites, and this is off of 6 different vineyards. It's a blend of Pinot Noir of Dutton Ranch sites.
Okay.
So before we dive into this, what's the proper way to taste wine?
You put it up to your mouth and you drink it.
Right.
Yeah.
Smell it, drink it. Yeah.
You got to keep it simple.
Let's give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the whole fancy swirling and analyzing, but at the end of the day, wine's supposed to be fun. It's a beverage to be enjoyed with food and friends and conversation, like we're having here today. So.
That's a very easy drinking.
Yeah.
Very tasty.
I don't know why the first word that comes to my mind is smooth, but it is a very tasty wine.
Because you're used to bourbon.
That's fair, but
This is the other brown drink.
Right.
the real test is, Dave, did you enjoy it?
I did.
That's impressive.
Yep.
Dave's not very adventurous.
No.
in his palate.
Wow, they just sold you out. We've only
yeah,
been
I
on like
know.
2 minutes.
He
Chicken
deserves it.
strips. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with chicken strips, for the record.
It is for every meal.
I'm in. Well, I'm in. We
we
could
give him a
probably
hard
eat.
time.
We can break bread for sure. I love it.
Okay, so let's now jump back into. We don't want to dump the wine.
Yeah.
I know,
No,
say
don't dump the
dumping.
wine.
We want to jump into your role. You said it was 12 or 13 years ago that you
Yeah.
got hired into this position.
Yeah.
So you work with over 1,800.
Farmers.
That's impressive.
I know.
And as this
A
position,
motley crew for sure.
what's the benefit that you can provide them?
Yeah, so I mean, in our association, our mission's pretty simple. We're about promoting our wine region, so ensuring folks like you and around the world drink our wine. If it says Sonoma County on the bottle, that means you're supporting our local grape growers so they can continue farming. And then the other piece is around ensuring we have grower education and resources, so kind of the other side, so making sure there's a marketplace for their product to go to, and then ensuring that they have the right resources and tools to continue farming. So we do a little bit of both. And it's awesome. I love it. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. On my dad's side, my grandparents are actually from Iowa, so I have some legit Midwest credibility here. And my mom grew up on a farm in Nebraska, so
That's not just.
Yeah, that doesn't
you walked me right into this. So I literally remember growing up as a kid, and I would sit through the debates at the table around what. If Nebraska farmland was better than Iowa farmland or not, and
The debates didn't last very long, did they?
well, so I mean, we can take this for whatever it's worth, but my family still has a small plot of farmland in Nebraska. Sadly, on my dad's side,
Nobody wanted to buy it?
no one has the Iowa farmland. So in my world, Nebraska kind of had to rule out, but mainly because that's just what I was left with. But yeah.
So when I think of wine, I think of California. When I think of corn, I think of Iowa, right? But there's other places that make grapes, make wine.
Yeah.
Even in Iowa, we have vineyards that I think they source a lot of stuff from California.
Yeah.
It gets shipped in, but they all have their own vineyard, and they make the one bottle, but I think they have 10 other bottles that
are not
from
local.
there.
Yeah.
Are most all the wine bottles that are here from here, or do you guys do the same? Do you source anything in?
No, we do
I was
not.
like, no,
So we
yeah.
actually we have the right climate, the right everything in Sonoma County to grow great grapes, and so that's what you're tasting is from the ground in Sonoma County.
So these are green grapes?
No, they're red grapes.
Or red grapes? I was going to say.
Great
They're
grapes.
red,
Oh, I thought you
great
said grape.
grapes.
Okay,
Yeah, great
yes.
grapes. So
Gotcha.
yeah, they're red grapes. But actually, so in a red grape, right, when you squeeze the juice out of a red grape, It's actually clear. And the way it turns red is you ferment it on the skins. And the skins,
skin has
the skin contact
pigment
is what
or-
makes
Gotcha.
the wine red. Yes.
Is that where the antioxidants are in the skin?
The skins and the seeds and all
Okay.
that. Yeah. Yes.
Just total random. How many trees of
Vines.
grapevines
Vines,
rather,
yep.
does it take to make a bottle?
So it's usually 50 cases per ton. So let's just do it. So we usually grow about 6,000 pounds on so 3 tons on an acre. It's 1,000 vines.
Okay.
So that would mean that every vine is doing about 6 pounds. And so someone else with the calculator got to do the math for me. But to get back to 50 cases per ton, that's then 12 bottles a case. So that's 350 times.
I'll get her pulled back
We
up.
got a guy.
Yeah, I was gonna
6,000
say,
bottles.
I know.
Guy here.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out.
Yep.
Okay, so we were down to
600 bottles. So 600 bottles an acre or a ton. Sorry.
Well, he's figuring.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if I can take one vine home and make my wife a bottle of wine. So,
6 pounds.
that's all it was.
He wants to.
I
He
come
wants
up with
to.
3.33.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's
Yeah.
like a little trivia question now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use
yeah,
going
but-
forward. So thanks for
Everybody's
that.
gonna want to know.
But you don't need to work that hard. I'll send you all the wine you want. That's no problem.
Fair enough.
So you're drinking it. I'll send it to you if you like. Now that you like it, you get a hold of me. I'll send you what you need.
So is that part of what the association does? Is it help the growers market it?
Yeah. So Sonoma County is really interesting as a wine region, and you were commenting. Literally, there are wine grapes grown in every state in the United States now, and we can debate to what level of quality and enjoyment, because I think a lot of states do bring in, wine from California to fill out their program. But in Sonoma County, we're really an ag community first and foremost. And I say that because we're here at the World Ag Expo, obviously, in the middle of what is farmer's paradise when you're walking around with all the equipment and resources here. So as Steve was talking, his story is very typical. Folks typically, migrated to California with the hope of discovering gold during the gold rush. A lot of folks that didn't happen for, as you can imagine.
You didn't find any gold?
They didn't
No,
find
5 generations ago, we did not find gold. So we ended up farming. I don't know if that's smart or this is what ended up happening.
the-
You farm something that makes alcohol. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we didn't farm.
They
Yeah.
found dirt gold.
Yeah.
So in Sonoma County, I think we have a long history of agriculture. So like Steve was saying, prunes were a very common crop, hops. And then essentially as the kind of global marketplace, as trade routes opened, as some of our crops became more commodity-based, California is not an inexpensive place to live and farm. And so really wine grapes, I want to say, saved agriculture in Sonoma County. It was really having a viable crop where you could afford to keep the land and agriculture. So we kind of came in. So I think Sonoma County is unique in that way that you really, in every bottle, you're getting a true sense of place because the farmer is at the core of the wine and the core of the wine story. Not that that's not true in other places. I think folks care about the land everywhere, but really the story is of that farmer wanting to ensure they can still farm. And so it wasn't, Steve had to learn how to drink wine. It wasn't like, oh, I love wine so much I want my name on a wine bottle, which happens in some places. It's more like, I got to keep farming my land and I'm going to learn how to drink Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and be a part of this community. And so you asked about, do we do marketing? I think absolutely, because these farmers, like a lot of farmers, marketing's not their skill set, right? They can be great storytellers. They know their business. They know their land. They can geek out and talk for a half hour about a tractor. But when you're like, hey, tell me about, your story and about the bigger picture, it's a little different. And so they rely on an association where, my background is marketing. I kind of ran away from the farming and then found this magic fit of I get to do something I love, but do it for, a stakeholder group, for people that I really care about what they do. And so we get to be out there and use our resources and, our relationship building to go tell that story and travel and bring the wine out on the road with us and bring the farmers out on the road with us and sort of continue to promote the region.
So 1,800 farmers in one county. I bet there's not 1,800 wineries, right?
So we have just over 400 wineries.
Okay.
So different wine brands.
So some people just farm the grapes and
about
sell.
60%. So
Yeah.
that's another kind of unusual data point for Sonoma County is that about 60% of our farmers are grape growers just farm. And so they sell, like Steve sells to, and his brother sell to 90 different wineries. They keep a small amount of grapes for this, wine that you're drinking in front of you. And his brother has a small wine brand called Dutton Estate. So you have those two, but for the most part, they grow grapes for other wine brands. So they're working, he has an interesting task because he works with 90 different winemakers.
Wow.
And so farmers and winemakers are kind of the yin and the yang of the business. So you got very different personalities out there and different, thoughts on how they want their grapes farmed, when they want to harvest them. So I think being a farmer, it's part farming and then a lot of relationship management.
That's what I was going to ask is how those relationships are built, because I've only seen videos of hops, for example. You come up and you harvest your hops and you bring a sample into a room and all the brewers come in and they smell and taste and do all these things. But is yours a year-over-year contract? They want your grapes every year?
Yep. So we have all kinds of contracts, but our longest relationship is with a winery by the name of it's Kistler Winery. This guy, my name is Steve Kistler, met my father in 1979, and we've been selling him grapes since then. And he actually makes a Kistler Vineyard Dutton Ranch Chardonnay. So 100% grapes in that bottle are from our ranch.
Steve, is there any other thing you can do with the grapes? I mean, you can sell grapes, of course. You can make wine. Is there any other avenue that you've ever looked at as the farmer to be like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I could monetize here?
Not with grapes. The only thing I know of to do with them is to make wine out of them. I mean, they're delicious to eat, but they're not like a table grape, right? Wine grapes have seeds in them, and they're small. But they actually, in my opinion, taste better than the table grapes you buy at the grocery store. They have more flavor to them.
So they're more round?
They're like a round. Yeah, they look like a little marble. Yeah, maybe smaller than a marble. Yeah,
I remember
I
my
always
grandma
wondered
had
when
some vines when I was my great grandma when I was growing up and eating some and seeds in my mouth.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think the only place I've seen grapes like that is in paintings or pictures, and I always thought it was just the
The
artist.
very
screwed
romantic
up.
side of the wine
romantic.
growing.
the elongated berry that you find in a table grape. They're manipulated to do that.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
To get bigger like that. Yes. Wow. Yeah.
So when you are working through these contracts and this relationship since the 70s, they dictate how these grapes are raised, or they partner with you because you raise them a certain way?
It's both ways, right? So they partner with us because of the site. So they might like the site where we are. So there's all kinds of things that affect the flavor of grapes, right? The soil type, the aspect to the sun, the hillside, wind conditions, all those things affect the flavors. So they might see a site they like, and then we kind of work together to farm the grapes to the way they want. And it's a lot of it's price, the price of per grape. So we have grapes that we sell for $10,000 a ton, and grapes we sell for $1,800 a ton.
Huh.
So the $10,000 a ton gets manipulated more. So we touch it by hand more, make sure it's exactly what everybody wants. And then the older, the less expensive grapes, it's a lot of just like, this is how it is, and this is what you're going to get. Yep. So we have both.
So why not have all expensive grapes?
He's trying.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of the idea, but you also need some stuff that's a little easier to do.
Sure.
So, and we just don't. Labor's an issue, right? So usually, right, we have on the ranch 165 full-time employees.
Wow.
We provide housing for 145 of them. So that's on our ranch as well, the housing, which is pretty unique, right, to California farming. And that is, so it takes a lot of hand labor to do all this. And if every acre was all the high-priced, had to touch, there's just not enough hours in the day to get it all done.
And also Sonoma County has, we grow 100 different grape varieties in Sonoma County. So, I mean, the big 7, so ones you're probably familiar with, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauv Blanc, ones that I think are more typical varietal wines make up about 92% of our grape varieties, but then you have another 90 plus that make up the small little piece of 7%. And so as part of that, you have to look at the marketplace, right, which is back into what does the association do with the marketing, but selling a $100 bottle of Sauv Blanc, which is what you'd have to do if someone was willing to pay $10,000 per ton of grapes, doesn't really make sense in the marketplace. So you kind of are balancing what the consumer is willing to pay for a bottle of wine and what that designate looks like, and under what circumstance out at a restaurant, bringing it home for dinner at home, and they buy it at the grocery store or wherever they're getting their wine, with what sort of the consumer wants and what then is the inputs in and the cost of doing that input. So it's kind of this, both are moving too all the time, right? So you have like the marketplace, and you're always. Grapes are interesting too because you plant a vineyard and it's 3 to 4 years before you really use that first harvest and those first grapes. So all of a sudden the marketplace that you thought you were, you're always chasing, right? So you're chasing the marketplace and you're like, oh, Sauv Blanc is so hot. We butted everything over to Sauv Blanc. And then by the time you're using it 4 years later, you're like, oh, Chardonnay's back. You know, what are we doing? So you have to really kind of figure out what your brand is, where your soils, like what your soils, your climate, what it makes sense that you can grow the best, which is, you know, we have in California, we have more coastline in Sonoma County than any other wine region in California, and that plays a dramatic role in our climate. So where Steve and Dutton Ranch is out in our West County, Russian River Valley, you get fog starting at, 6 at night, and it stays around until noon the next day. Where if you were to go north, we're a very large county, if you go north, you're seeing fog for maybe a couple hours, so you can be almost 10 degrees difference in our same county.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're in Cabernet Sauvignon land where it needs a lot more heat to get those grapes ripe than the cooler climate that Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So we have 19 different growing regions just in Sonoma County based on different soil types and climate. So a little different than sort of corn and soybeans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it all kind of plays into what makes this bottle, this glass of Pinot Noir different than the bottle next to it or from a region, up in Oregon or over in, Virginia.
Yep.
So, Karissa, I'm a member of, 20 different associations.
Thank you.
And,
Yes.
and every one of them is, I feel like, losing membership and going down. I've seen the volume of people with the internet growing and people, connection groups, etc. But what I've always got out of any association has been whatever I put in.
Absolutely.
Okay, so whatever I put in. So you got 1,800 growers. How many of these guys, gals are engaging and being like, for sharing of ideas, educational opportunities? I mean, are they all involved, or are they just saying, yep, I'm a member because I'm a member and I got my card carrying, son of a gun?
It's a very important card.
And you got to go back to how this started, right?
Yeah.
So we before Karissa got hired, we had a vote of every grower in Sonoma County and voted to tax ourselves.
Every grower.
Every grower that could sell 25 tons of grapes off their ranch and more. So we got a vote. There's lots of, right? Everyone got a vote that could do that. So you were a commercial operation. So we voted to tax ourselves, and that's how the commission got started. So we tax ourselves. It's a small amount, but it adds up and it makes a difference. And so the idea is tax ourselves, hire the best marketing person in Sonoma County, which is Karissa, and then go out and help us sell our grapes.
So explain the tax. Is that like a per pound thing, per ton thing?
Per ton.
It's assessment per ton. So it's right.
like
it's
your checkoff.
It's 0.065 per dollar.
Yeah, so we work like a checkoff program.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is fairly atypical in wine grapes. We're considered a wine grape commission, which there's 3 wine grape commissions in the state of California: Sonoma County, and it's actually Crush District 3, so Marin, Sonoma County, and then Lake County and Lodi. And so, as Steve mentioned, back in 2006, we moved from this model of an association where every year you're like, do I want to pay my dues? Am I getting anything out of it?
And a lot didn't pay their dues, and that's why we did this, because there was a lot of they kind of ride on the coattails.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why this happened.
So literally every grower in the county that produces more than 25 tons is a member.
Absolutely.
So it's
fair.
By default.
It's
By
fair.
default,
It's
yeah.
fair that way.
However, every 5 years they get to vote if they want to continue doing this model. So I kind of laugh because I have other friends who are in the association, run associations, and every year they're like, our membership's up or down, and we're trying to demonstrate value, right, and making sure folks feel like they're getting some return. And I'm like, well, I don't have that every year, but every 5 years I have like the biggest performance review of my life.
Yeah.
Because literally every grower gets to place a
getting shut
vote
down.
whether I get to stay and keep my job or keep the association.
Steve, you better not vote wrong.
I
No,
know,
trust me.
right?
Yeah. I think that's why she.
I've got one vote.
That's why she married me, man.
I've got one guaranteed vote. Yes, I'm in. No, but it does, to Steve's point, because of that, the collaboration is really rich, and because everyone is inputting and they've agreed to do this, they voluntarily signed up to do this assessment, and the recognition that alone that they couldn't figure out. I mean, a lot of our farmers are small farmers. They're 95% still family farmed and operated in Sonoma County across our vineyards, and so they know that we can't. In order for them to stay farming and doing what they love, they need an organization to help develop relationships and partnerships and do the marketing. And we've done some really fun stuff. I mean, there's bringing wine. We have a great collaboration with the San Francisco Giants. We have a new partnership with the Houston Rockets basketball team. We do stuff with Food and Wine Magazine, all of those things.
San Francisco makes sense because it's
I know.
relatively
So
close.
why are we in
Yeah,
Houston, Texas?
Yeah.
So great question. So California is the #1 wine drinking region in the United States, especially for Sonoma County wine. Second is Texas, and third is Florida, actually. And then you go to sort of the big cities like Chicago, New York. And then we have a really great partnership with Landry's Restaurants. So I'm sure a lot of your farmers sell products to Landry's. They have restaurants like Morton's and Mastro's and the Palms and Del Frisco's and Chart House. Anyway, 600 restaurants, the Golden Nugget casinos. And so they're based in Houston, and we do a lot with them because they're literally the largest buyer of Sonoma County wine in the United States.
Wow.
So they're a great partner. And the owner of that sort of whole organization also owns the Houston Rockets. And so they have a very elevated food and wine experience at the Toyota Center in Houston. And so they've really opened the door for us to honestly access. I mean, wine's interesting because we joke like how you're supposed to taste it and you swirl it and what are the tasting notes and you getting the cherry? Did you guys get cherry in that, right? But at the end of the day, wine also we're working on making it more accessible and bringing it out to a younger and a more diverse consumer. And so we're looking at sports as an interesting way to do that, to go where people are naturally engaged and enjoying time with family and friends, having a social experience. And we love wine because, right, we always say like, wine's a great product. When you're happy, you can drink wine, and when you're not happy, you could drink wine, right? That's sort of it's the perfect product for that. And so that's been an interesting partnership. So the farmers love it because all of a sudden we were just in Houston, Texas, and there we are hosting a winemaker dinner at the Toyota Center before a basketball game, right? So the players are out on the court warming up, the announcers screaming, and we're like, drink Sonoma County wine, and it's really fun to see kind of that reception and educate, and also again make wine. I don't want to say make it fun again, but literally just say like, it doesn't have to be so serious. At the end of the day, it's a beverage. It comes from a farm, and to remind people that there are farmers behind what's in the glass.
You didn't realize when you were in college drinking your fine wine
Out of a box.
out of a bag.
Don't knock it. A lot of people got their start on box wine, and it's making a comeback.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. We still do it when we go trout fishing. It perfect take on the river.
Absolutely.
Slot bag.
Yep. Perfect.
You could just put the bag right in the water and keep it chilled,
cool it
and
out.
you're all good.
Yep.
You're all good.
Everyone loves it.
So how big's the cellar, right? Wine cellar?
At our house.
At the ranch.
Oh,
yeah.
at the ranch.
At the ranch we have a big refrigerator that's full of wine. At our home we took a bedroom and converted it into a we put racks up in the whole bit and a cooling system in it. So
Put doors and cooling system.
Yeah, it's maybe 12 by 12, 12 feet by 12 feet. Holds 1,000 bottles.
So,
awesome.
we can't host any guests, but you have a great wine experience if you want to come visit. So,
So I want to know why the wine bottle? Why the bottle cork? What's the design? Why does wine get served that way? Because I have to have a corkscrew
I know.
to get it open. We were talking about bourbon.
Well, yeah, if you're going to drink wine at a basketball game,
Man,
you're not
you guys don't want to put any work into anything.
You're not going to have this.
Just asking questions.
Just asking. Do you want me to tackle
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
You want me to
You got-
tackle
that's
this?
all
And so
you.
the farmer's like, do your job and answer the question.
Yeah.
You're like, that's what I'm here for.
That's all you.
No, I mean, wine's interesting. I mean, the cork, there's a lot of debate on cork actually right now, and you have a lot of wineries moving towards a screw cap, which is a much easier, in theory, and I think a lot of research has been done. The cork allows oxygen in the wine. I mean, wine is still an organic product, so it still evolves and changes in the bottle. It's not like you've harvested it, you made it, now it's just done, and it's not the Coca-Cola, right, where you get hopefully the same product every time. I mean, wine every year is going to talk and taste of the vintage, and it's going to taste of the site, right? So every year it's going to be a little different, which is, I think, really fun to see. So the cork allows more oxygen, allows that ageability of wine. But if you're going to drink a wine, like a lot of rosés you see under screw cap, you see Sauv Blancs under screw cap. So wines that you're tending to consume in that first year or 2 years when they're kind of out in the marketplace, there's not sort of the same need to put it under cork. But at the same time, you have wineries that have invested in infrastructure like any business. So as sort of trends change and we learn more about putting cork or screw caps on wine, it's going to take a bit for all the wineries and the infrastructure to catch up with being able to kind of balance, what you do when. So it's all of those things again.
Yeah.
It's investment and cost. And
Why do they call it wine? You're making it from grapes. Wouldn't it be called grape juice?
That is way above my pay grade.
oh,
I don't know.
got her
I
stumped her.
Where'd the
mean,
name wine come
I
from?
don't know. I mean, I think it goes all the way back to biblical times, right? They weren't
Yeah.
like, drinking grape juice in the Bible. They were drinking wine. So I think they
Right.
just stuck with it and said if it's good enough for then, it's good enough for now.
It's
So
fermented, so it's wine.
Yeah.
So as our listeners
Otherwise
are
it's grape juice.
members of these associations,
Yeah.
like you said, that are usually choice dues,
Yep.
and set up trying to figure out if it's still worth their due
Yeah.
to continue as they go forward. What have you been doing to successfully garner votes every 5th year?
Yeah, what's that 5-year vote? Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we've really seen has been a really great opportunity for us is, as an association, is to go out and look and identify partners and organizations that would collaborate with us, with our farmers, to bring resources and learning. Especially, I mean, we're here today at World Ag Expo at the invite of John Deere, and we have a wonderful new collaboration with them, which has just been, we're super, super excited about. But we're seeing all of that where a Dutton Ranch, even as sort of big of farmers as they are in Sonoma County, wouldn't have sort of that ability to go out and bridge those sort of collaborations on their own. So that's really important, and important for companies like a John Deere. We did some pilot farm and some research with Ford Pro a couple of years ago to have these global companies say, we want to invest in high-value crops. Because I'll be quite honest, a lot of times, your friends in the Midwest, your Iowa farmers are getting a lot of those resources and a lot of attention because you're farming thousands of acres, and you might work with one of our farmers, and they might have 10 acres or 20 acres of crop, and it's like, okay, that's not big business, but it's high value ag, and more, as we said, to be sustainable in farming in California, it has to be a high value crop. And so to be able to partner and work to learn together and just how we stay sustainable and how our farmers stay farming. And we did a survey this past summer of our farmers and said, what are your top challenges and opportunities? And 3 out of the top 10 things they're concerned about is labor, whether it's attention, retraction, or cost. So the trifecta of people. Wine grapes are a high-touch business, as Steve mentioned. And so having the opportunity to think about automation, moving towards electrification, whether it's in trucks and tractors and vehicles, doing less with more resources, whether it's just good for the environment, which is a win, or whether it's good for the bottom line, which is a double win. Those are really important, but we have to, I think as a trade association, help our farmers. I mean, my ultimate goal is if I could tell each farmer specific to their business, if they had $1 to invest in their business next year, where to put that dollar, that would be the holy grail. Because for one farmer, it might be invest in solar. That is going to be the best long-term return for you. The other one, it might be like, you know what, you should put in charging stations. That's a great. Another one, you should look at how your cover crop and what you're doing, because maybe you could sequester more carbon if you used a different cover crop. So I think all of those things, the farmers, I say it's like at the end of the day, it's a simple product. It's wine and it's fermented grapes, but the decisions that go into getting you there are endless. And each one of those is a balance of investment of that dollar and what's that return. So we need partners and collaborators, and one, investing in high value crops, because it certainly matters to our farmers in Sonoma County. But also helping us pave the way and learn together. So what we're doing right now, we have this great new collaboration with John Deere. We're going to be implementing Smart Apply on 6 different ranches around Sonoma County. And we're really good, honestly, just collecting the data. So we have a good data set of what does this sort of equipment mean, this resource mean in Sonoma County on wine grapes, hillside versus valley floor, Pinot Noir versus Cabernet, different size ranches, different crews, different, applies to understand, because that way then I'll have this case study and I can go, 2 years from now to another farmer and say, you know what, under these circumstances, this model, this is what you should do. So the more we can do those collaborations and have the farmers sharing and almost opening their books, which I know is a little crazy. I mean, farming is the only business. I worked at General Mills, was my first job out of college, and there's not a lot of businesses that are competitors that collaborate. And I think farming is this really unique spot where our farmers are like, it does me no good to be a better farmer, use less resources, and not tell my neighbor how to do that same thing. Because don't we want to use less water? Don't we want to use less spray material? Don't we want to help each other save money? I want your farm to still be you to still be farming. I want to still be farming. That's the landscape of what we're doing. So I think it's a really interesting time. And like I said, we need partners to come in. We can't do it alone. We can't build that data set and those models on our own. So. And I, unfortunately, Steve, as my husband, gets signed up for everything because I just answer for him. So I'm always guaranteed at least one pilot farmer. I'm like, Steve says yes. And then he's like, what'd you sign me up for? I'm like, don't worry about it. You'll find out. Yes, exactly.
So, Steve, you're 5th generation?
Yep.
So how many farmers in Sonoma are new farmers? How many guys just start and say, you know what, I like wine. I'm heading out to California. Let's make this happen.
There's not a lot. It's pretty capital intensive business to become a farmer.
Yeah.
You guys know that. There are a lot though. There's a lot of, I guess they would call themselves farmers, but they own a vineyard and maybe a house on it, right? And so they don't maybe actively farm, but they own the vineyard. And some of those are growers that get to vote and do all this stuff, but they're farmed by a company like mine.
Okay.
That goes in and does, we have the equipment, we have the labor, we know what we're doing, and we'll just farm for them, and then essentially it's fee for service.
So there's custom
farming.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Custom farming. That's what we call it. Yes.
Have you guys implemented a lot of autonomy on your farm?
We have not.
No.
We have not. We're hoping that this partnership will help us do some of that. Yeah. So that's the hope, to save money in chemicals, save money in labor, and hopefully.
So is
continue.
that what you get one of these Gus's?
We're
We're waiting for. Wait, are you saying we get one of these? So this is recorded, right?
That's right.
I think.
Yeah.
Are you making
Yeah.
some commitments on behalf of
Well,
Gus?
they're
I
up
heard
here.
it here first.
They're up here. I think you can open
I mean,
it.
I think
Yeah.
right.
Why
I
they would.
mean, I'm in.
I've looked at them. I'm interested in it, but seems like a very cool machine. So I would, I don't know how we could use it yet, but who knows.
We were talking on the way out here, just the perspective of where we're at versus where high value crops are. We got to tour a sugarcane operation in Florida, and we're blown away at the fact that the sugarcane is planted by hand, and most of it is harvested 1 or 2 rows at a time, and just how much more labor intensive the crop is. But a lot of the technology that's there is built by the growers. A lot of the equipment used is modified by the growers. Same thing when we interviewed a gal that has cranberries. She said that most of the equipment and attachments to their tractors that they run, her dad made.
Yep.
So it's neat to see, like you said, these partnerships where the industry is looking to jump into high value and start to provide the resources to you, because we couldn't believe it. I can't remember which conversation we were in, talking about how the ops center, John Deere's ops center, doesn't get used very much out here, where almost every grower in the Midwest that runs John Deere, even Dave, who would be his first year farming, is already logging in and getting everything set up.
Yep.
It's just what you do.
Yeah. So we just bought our first two John Deere tractors that have that ability now. So we're just going to start adopting that. Yeah.
With you guys having so many more employees, really, it's I'm doing it to connect with Corey because, like you said, farmers help farmers. So Corey is actually going to help me harvest, and I'm going to plant. And so we wanted the same connectivity that mine will talk with his and his will talk with mine, and we'll be on the same row, throughout the season. I can imagine as a business owner, though, for you guys, if you got 150 employees, like, hey, where is that other piece of equipment I have? And where's that one? Where's that one going? And how fast are they going? I mean, I got to think that as a business owner, it'd be kind of a cool thing to have as well. Did that one need maintenance? Just a way to check in. I mean, we check in everything digitally anymore. I mean, I know my Uber is going to be there in 7 seconds. So, yeah.
No, I think it has potential to help us a lot. Because, some of these newer tractors that we have that have the regen on them, right? The def and the regen and all that. I mean, our guys just see blinking lights and they just keep driving. They don't understand what's going on. This will help them to say, hey, by the way, you need to park that and let it run here and do its thing. So that's, I see some real help with that in the future.
You guys are Sonoma. So
Yes.
you ever dip into Napa?
Oh.
Like how's that? How's
Yeah.
that?
Way to go. No.
We were all having a good time.
Yeah, thanks for that. No, do you know what's really interesting is about 30% of the grapes harvested in Sonoma County are bought by Napa Valley wineries. So they go over to Napa. Napa is a much warmer climate than Sonoma County, and a little less microclimates around, and so wonderful place for Cabernet Sauvignon. But when you really want to have Chardonnay or Pinot Noir in your portfolio, you're probably buying those grapes from Sonoma County. So I always like to say I thank you, Napa Valley Wineries, for marketing Sonoma County grapes over in your valley for us, because we appreciate the support. But I think, it's just interesting. So, I mean, grapes are so climate sensitive and so soil sensitive that you really have to grow what grows well in your specific area. I mean, I think
I was thinking vacationing for our listeners, if they're listening, like, we're going to go wine tasting. My wife and I went out to Napa.
Yeah.
That's where we went. We didn't, think to go to
We won't hold that against you. I'm glad you're sitting the furthest away from me.
I know, right? So, like,
That was planned.
I feel
obviously,
dangerous.
I
Yeah,
can't
there's more
throw the
marketing
elbow. Can I throw an
opportunity
elbow
here.
to you and pass it down?
I'm in a dangerous position here. Yeah, I can feel it.
I'm gonna just beat up on Tanner here, on your
Yeah, it
behalf.
happens all the time.
So, no, I mean, I think I always feel like Sonoma County is a little bit of a hidden gem. I mean, we're a very more trivia for you all. We're a little bigger than the size of the state of Rhode Island as a county. So we're about 1 million acres. We have about 6% planted to wine grapes, only about 60,000 acres. So, Napa Valley is very easy to to travel, because there's two main thoroughways that kind of go up and down the valley, and you see all the wineries kind of off those main roads. In Sonoma County, you might be like, I want to go to this winery, not realize it's 45 minutes away from, over 2 mountains and down and out to the coast in a way that you might not anticipate. So again, it's what gives us so much diversity in our climates, and we can grow so many different grapes, grape varieties there. But we always say it's, a little bit more for the person that wants to go, travel the back roads and meet the winemakers and the growers. I mean, I think that's still very true of our counties, that you show up and you don't realize that it's actually Steve Dutton pouring the wine behind the bar, or, at one of our other farmers, and all of a sudden you get them talking. You're like, wait, are you the guy in the picture? And then it's like, wait a minute, what just happened here? So I think it's a more casual experience. And I think that's part of it. And also such a great food. I mean, it's the food and wine. I mean, I love a good cocktail, but when I'm sitting down to a meal, there's no other beverage for me that goes with it like wine does. And so I think that whole farm to table really, Sonoma County is one of the birthplaces for the farm to table movement. And so our chefs just have a bounty of opportunity in terms of what they want to cook and prepare. So it's a great place to enjoy food and wine together.
Well, so David, sounds to me like your next trip with your wife is to Sonoma
Yeah,
County.
I was going to say,
exactly,
you won't make that mistake more than once. So we'll make sure we leave you all our information. You come visit.
Yeah.
Right, remember, we don't have a spare room, but we have a wine cellar.
There you go.
There you go. We were driving in today just talking about what our plans were, driving past some vines, and I had that question. You brought it up, that what cover crop is implemented and how ways you're helping. My question, which was naive, but one I was thinking of, is why not utilize that space between the rows? I was saying, let's plant 2 or 3 rows of soybeans. They don't get too tall. And then you can harvest the soybeans at the end of the year. Obviously, the climate's not going to line up.
Right.
But what does happen between the rows of vines?
So most of the time when we plant something like that, we're usually it's either going to be mowed down short and left, or it's going to be tilled back. And so we're tilling it back, and what we're doing there is, we'll plant legumes, so we're adding nitrogen back to the soil, or just the idea that we're putting organic matter back in the soil. So it'll be either one of those things will happen out there.
But we don't plant a harvestable crop in between?
No, but you know what is, we used to plant rows that were 12 feet apart, and I had a friend who has not since passed away. Her name was Sarah Lee, and she grew up on a dairy, and she grew a cover crop, and she wanted to figure out how to bale that cover crop so she could sell it back to her brother's dairy. And but no one makes that equipment small enough to do anything like that. So it's
We're in
true.
the right place, Steve.
I know, yes.
Did
so
everyone
there
hear
we
that
go.
out there?
John Deere's got to be listening to this. There might be a market there, but I mean, it could be done. There's no doubt about it.
Because you said they used to be 12 feet apart. How far apart are you now?
yeah.
8
Good
feet.
question.
So you'd have to get something down to like 60 inches to make it work. Yeah.
Which is part of the specialty high value crop. I mean, especially in wine grapes, our rows are quite narrow, and you want to optimize, right? Because the farming expenses in California, it's so high that you want to optimize every piece of ground you have. So you narrow your spacing to get more vines per acre to increase your yield, obviously to increase your profitability. But you're doing that sometimes on pretty steep slopes. And so the equipment we need to be able to get between those vine rows successfully, or navigate some of the hillsides, it's not just, straight rows, valley floor going through. So it's a little different it's a different animal than I would think a lot of the farming in Midwest.
They just need to make the hay equipment like a self-propelled John Deere mower, and you can make those little mini bales.
The mini bales. Yeah.
We're up. Something made that.
Or there you go.
model
Yeah,
cotton bale right there.
We see a lot of smiling, shut up faces in the audience right now, just for those people that can't see what we're seeing, which is the feedback from the John Deere folks going good idea, but let's not go there yet.
Locally from where we're from, there's a lot of research combines made for small test plots, and they harvest 1 or 2 rows of a crop. I'm sitting there going, we can maybe send you a combine.
Yeah.
That looks silly because it looks like a toy.
Okay, so you guys have to so
a toy to you is our main equipment.
Yeah. So a plantable acre of grapes for a plantable acre of land in Sonoma County is $100,000 an acre.
Oh.
So then to plant the vineyard is $40,000 an acre, right? So
and then you wait 3 to 4 years before you get your first money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you guys can figure out a way that I can make money the whole time that's happening, I'm game. Let's do it.
I got it.
Yeah.
I own a real estate firm. Let's just sell this $100,000 ground. How about you in that
We got a whole different business.
game?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So Steve, my background's in agronomy, and so besides labor, what is your biggest agronomic issues in growing grapes? Is it disease? Is it pests? What?
Water.
It is. So it's water because California's just gone through a drought, so we figured out how to grow grapes with less water, and we're always doing that, and also how to store the rainwater we get. So my family's invested in building 3 ponds, 3 water storage ponds for captured rainwater. Working on our 4th one now. So that's the idea to store the water, use it when we need it, and then for grapes the issue we have, the biggest disease we have is it's called mildew. And so essentially, it's powdery mildew gets on the vines, gets on the leaves, gets on the grapes, and it'll actually affect the flavor of the wine.
Oh.
So when we're treating usually with sulfur products to control mildew. Yeah, that's our biggest disease issue.
Okay.
So you guys probably have lots of regulation of what you can spray and what you can't,
Yes.
and water.
In California?
We
No
talked
way.
about regulation
What?
yesterday. We count on our associations for advocacy on the Hill. If you're not at the table, you're on the table. So is that something you're doing for your 1,800 growers?
Yeah, so we're unique, and I think like a lot of checkoff programs, we're technically a public entity, so we can't do advocacy. We call it education. So we do a lot of education of our elected officials and policymakers just on the impacts or ramifications of decisions that come through. But there are other organizations that are partners to kind of what we do that do that specific quote unquote
So
lobbying.
for us, it's Farm Bureau, California Farm Bureau. There's a Sonoma County Farm Bureau, which is part of California Farm Bureau. So, and I'm on the board of the Farm Bureau. So yes, we are always looking at those issues and trying to not be on the table.
I mean, what better thing to educate on? Sitting in there with a politician and, you don't get your answer? I'll have another bottle.
Here you
have
go.
some more. Okay.
We do have a really good product, and it's portable, which is very, very nice and ageable. So you can pack it. And I always think it's really what's fun for us too. And I've said this, but I can't reiterate. I mean, wine and wine grapes are one of the only ag crops and products where literally, the farmer's name potentially goes on every bottle. Dutton Ranch is on this bottle in front of us. It's on a number of bottles. And so as a consumer out there, you could find out so much information about the practices, the farmer, the family, the land that goes into what's on there. And I think with that comes a lot of responsibility, frankly, and accountability to what we're doing. And, we have a big sustainability commitment. And
pass the Pinot
I know,
down to Dave.
and we
He
have a
needs
couple
more.
empty glasses here, so we're going to
I'm
pass
thinking
the
you need
Pinot
QR
down
codes on the court.
How do you know where to stop pouring?
until the bottle's empty is really the answer to that.
I mean,
no, that's perfect.
Okay, that's a good pour.
Well, it depends if you want to share or not, I guess, is how big you want to pour yourself.
You talked about having fun. So we got the Dutton Ranch wine.
Yep.
What's your favorite wine?
Oh, here we go. No, I was getting asked
recorded.
questions
Or is
about my
there-
Tuesday night wine before we.
Oh, you have wines for the day.
Oh, for the day.
Well, yeah, don't you?
Oh, any
No?
day that ends in
No.
Y?
Yeah,
Every day
exactly.
So for me, I always look right. I have what's called a house palate, so I drink wine that I grow the grapes for. So I always look for my own. If it says Dutton Ranch on it, that's what I buy at a restaurant.
Well, tell them what you do because you're a little money circle. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So
These people are interested in
I like
this.
the idea of the money going around in a circle, right? So I'll wherever I'm at. If I'm at a restaurant, it says Dutton Ranch on it. I don't care how much it costs. I'll buy that, drink that at the table. So then I'll look for Russian River Valley, which is where the AVA we're in, then Sonoma County, then California, right? Because I like the idea of the money coming back around to us. So
that's a table wine.
That is our wine, yes.
Is there other kind of wines, like standing up wine?
Laying on the floor wine.
You drink enough of it, now that'll get you there.
There's couch wine, there's table wine, there's patio
Yeah.
wine, there's cooler wine. Come on, there's all sorts of wine. It's totally fine.
What, wine coolers?
Yeah, there's that too. There's that.
Boy, that brings
there's
back
that too.
And our motto is, right, is at home is to always drink good wine. And there's never not an occasion to have good wine. So drink it. Don't save it. Drink it. We'll make you more.
Well, have you ever been to a restaurant? We didn't even finish her answer yet, but have you ever been to a restaurant and been like, this is my wine. This does not taste good. I want another bottle. Like, I want a different bottle. Or do you ever get judgmental of your own?
No. I mean, no, I don't. That's never happened. What happens, though, is with the cork, right, you have wines that are corked, so there'll be an off-flavored wine. So I have been where I open a bottle of that and go fill, and it's like, oh, hey, this is corked. Hey, let's get another bottle of this. We'll drink another bottle, but send this one back to the wine. We'll make this good for you.
So there's actually a chemical reaction that can happen with the TCA in a cork, which can actually cause a flawed wine. So sometimes you might try a wine and almost taste like you're drinking it through a piece of cardboard. You kind of lose the fruit element in that. It's because the cork literally has a flaw from the cork tree, from a chemical reaction in the cork with the wine. Hopefully it doesn't happen very often, but it's something as an industry we try really hard to educate about and try to, you can literally, when wineries are selecting corks, they go do quality trials on the corks. So they'll be pulling corks off the line, they soak them in water, and you can smell the water and see if you're getting a reaction from it. You would have no idea all this goes into a bottle.
No, I have no idea.
I
just wrote down cork tree grower. I didn't ever think that was a profession.
Oh, yeah. Portugal.
Yeah, a lot of them come out of Portugal. Similar to the barrels that a lot of French oak trees.
Is there a synthetic cork that allows it to breathe?
Not as well.
No. Okay.
There are good synthetic corks. Again, it goes back to if you're going to have a wine that you think should be consumed young, or consumer behavior is to have it young, putting a synthetic cork in it or a screw cap, totally fine, because it's not. You're going to probably want to capture the wine how it tasted at bottling, essentially, and enjoy it that way. But if you're drinking, a nice big Cabernet Sauvignon, like there's a bottle of Louis Martini Cabernet on here from Alexander Valley in Sonoma County. Someone consumed that last night, so we don't get to enjoy it. But it's nice to see the bottle. Thanks, team. But it's great to have the bottle up here, right? So that wine is something that probably is drinking great young. But if you want to lay it down for a couple of years, 5-7 years, it's still going to be fantastic. The flavors will evolve a little bit more in that. So having a real cork in there can play a bigger role.
So there's some wines you might wait 2 or 3 years to get a crop off of for the grapes, but then you might age it as well before it even hits the
You have to be really patient.
so the Pinot Noir, right? It's from harvest to the time you can buy. It's 2 years.
Okay.
So
minimum.
Yeah. So we make a decision about what vineyards we're going to plant, then plant the vineyard. Then it's 3 years to get a crop, and then another 2 years for the wine, right? So that's like a 6-year process.
And those vines last how long?
30 to 50 years.
Then you're not changing
100.
that.
Or 100. We have some vines that are 100.
You're really not changing the variety, or do you change the variety by grafting the vine?
You can. Yeah.
Okay.
We absolutely can. So, there was a movie that came out that about Pinot Noir and Merlot, and that panned Merlot, and we immediately went and we couldn't sell Merlot anymore. Went and grafted all the Merlot.
It literally sideways. The movie Sideways changed Pinot Noir and Merlot forever.
Yeah. So
until the next movie comes out, it brings Merlot back.
We were fortunate that we grew more Pinot Noir, so that took off, and with that, but the Merlot, 2 years later we couldn't sell it, so grafted it all out.
How long is that bottle of wine good on the shelf? Is it good 50 years later? 10 years later?
Not in our house.
No.
It wouldn't last that long.
No, I'll bet there's some good Cabernets that would, red wine that would last a long time.
We've had birthday wine.
Yeah, 1975.
When I turned 45 a couple years ago, we opened a bottle of 1975 Cabernet, and it's not going to taste the same as it would in the first couple of years, obviously, because it evolves. So I think in some ways you have to have an appreciation for what older wine tastes like. So the fact that you're still getting intact wine, you're still getting some fruit from it, it's holding up in the mouthfeel. I mean, that's sort of what you're looking for. You might not get the brightness that you would off like the Pinot Noir we're drinking right now because it's fresh. It's, I think, a 2019 you said. So a little different.
That's what I'd have called it, brightness.
Right, right? Is that, I'm
yeah.
giving you some verbiage for future wine
2019, it was a good year. That's when the podcast started.
tasting.
That's right.
Oh, there you go. So cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
So as I think about your association, it fascinates me. Before this conversation, I had done a lot of research and didn't know that it was
a commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, funded that way.
and that's great, but that also can probably make you have some struggles because a lot of times we tell our partners that our listeners are here because they choose to be. They want to listen to the podcast. It's not aired on the radio station that just turns on when you turn your car on. In your instance, you're the radio station that just turns on. So how do you get buy-in? Because
well, I'm a
people
little
are
more
forced
than
to
that.
be there.
Hello? No, I'm kidding. I'm
right.
kidding.
But
No,
if they're forced
yeah.
to be a member, and I'm using the harsh terms, how
Right.
do you keep everybody motivated?
You know, I think the trick is understanding what. I mean, there's subsets of your membership, right? So there are always a few outliers. There's probably people you're never going to make happy, and no one really loves paying a tax. Let's just be honest, right? So no matter what, it's a piece of your business. But for me, we look at it and say, okay, and we do a lot of communication and conversation and surveys. It's like, what matters? Like what? Because there are some growers that literally the best thing they do in our organization is that for 4 months out of the year, we do literally outside, bring your own chair, integrated pest management meetings. And it's during the season, April to July. So it's in their region, so a sort of region of Sonoma County. There's probably 30 growers sitting around in their own chair. We provide free coffee and donuts. They love the free food, right? But what they're getting is a network to really talk about, are we seeing in disease pressure? Have you had to start irrigating? What was your frost impact? So they're just getting a peer-to-peer conversation. For some of our growers, that's all they want and need. That's how they engage. And then there are other growers that are saying, you know what, sign me up to be a pilot farmer. I want to be on the cutting edge of understanding how I invest and do more with technology. I want to be connected. I want to, sign up for all of those things. So you kind of have the two extremes of the organization. I mean, we do a lot of communication. We bring in resources. We do, webinars. We're doing a sustainable wine growing field day on April 16th where we're demoing, hopefully some of the John Deere equipment and some of our other collaborators and partners. So again, it's kind of finding where that value. Some of our farmers just love that they can open a food and wine magazine and see an ad that has Sonoma County wine growers on it. And they're like, you know what? I would have never been able to do that ad on my own. I wouldn't have even known who to call at Food and Wine Magazine. I wouldn't have known how to put creative together or what our messaging should be. And I'm proud that our brand is something that says Sonoma County is out there in the world. And so I think you just have to figure out how you work across your stakeholders and find value that matters to them.
Well, and okay, for growers like me, right? So what matters is that there's a market to sell my grapes.
I was just thinking that.
So everybody, every business is competitive, right? Everyone's out to eat your lunch. There's no doubt about it. So if someone picks a Sonoma County wine and that gets consumed, then that helps me next year sell a ton of grapes maybe. And that's what matters, right? Is if I want to stay, my kids farm with me. They're the 6th generation of Duttons. They already work at the ranch. If they want to have a successful business into their future and my grandkids someday, we got to sell wine to do that, right? We're not doing this for the fun of it. You got to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Well, and we were just at the Houston Rockets game, and we talked about, okay, well, why Texas and Houston Rockets and whatever? There's so many things, but we were down there with 2 other wineries, and you actually had a winemaker come up to you while we were at the game and say, hey, I think I might need to buy more Pinot Noir from you. And he came up to us and said, this is actually moving the needle on my business. Collaborations, partnerships like this. We're selling wine into the Toyota Center. We have consumers here signing up for our list and our mailing list. It's selling wine, and then he's chatting with you about buying more grapes. So, to that is that's the holy grail when you're like, okay, we have a wine partner and a grower, and they're making deals happen because we're at a marketing event where we're promoting Sonoma County. It doesn't always happen like that. So that's a great example, fresh off the presses here in the last couple of weeks, but that's what you're always aiming for. It's like and it's awareness. It's someone trying, and also someone knowing. I think to me, I'm more interested in anything I'm doing or consuming if I know who's behind it. So I think I mean, think about it, like you're much more likely now to see Sonoma County in a label of wine and be like, oh, I'm going to try that. I met Steve, I met Karissa, right?
Yep.
And so the more that someone like me is out in the world saying, meet our farmers, understand our business, look at beautiful Sonoma County, come join us, you're invited, the more then the next time they're going to go make a wine purchase, they're going to be like, oh, Sonoma County, that's cool. I really like that the fog plays a big role. I really like that they're focused on sustainable wine growing. I really like that they're out there saying, come to Sonoma County and learn with us and partner with us, and let's figure out how to be innovative together and solve problems together. So I think all of those things matter.
You know what's going through my mind right now?
What's that?
You want to drink more wine?
How many of our listeners we could switch over to drinking
Let's do it.
Sonoma County wine?
I'm thinking.
We just
why
have
did
our
you
own
Let's
answer-
do
wine
it. Can we
store.
do like a little poll?
We
Like
have-
send some pictures to us?
We got a
can,
brand-
Send us a
like-
lot of cases of wine.
We got a
We'll
brand
make
new
sure they get-
studio.
I-
We could put one of the walls into a rack.
I'm telling you, we can raffle off. We have tickets to the Healdsburg Wine and Food Experience. We could raffle off to
Yep.
some of your listeners if they want to talk about how they converted to Sonoma County wine or send them pictures in. I mean, we're up for it.
Why do you think your ancestors called it a ranch? You called it a vineyard. You called it an orchard. I've heard farm. I've heard lots of stuff. Ranch says cattle to me. Says livestock, not necessarily crops.
I don't know why my dad did that.
That's a great question. I've
That's
never
a great
heard,
question.
No one's ever asked him that I know of.
Probably because Dutton Ranch sounded better than Dutton Farm. I don't know for sure.
And I don't know, this is, again, our first experience coming out here and doing these types of recordings, meeting and making these types of relationships, that I didn't know those who raised grapes were called farmers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I thought of them as a vineyard.
Yeah,
But I
sure.
didn't know what the term was. I didn't know.
Yeah,
You're
grape
not a
growers,
viner.
farmers.
no.
So I've got a great story on. So I literally went through this exercise. So as you can imagine, farmers love to go into a closed room and brainstorm.
Yep.
Right? They love when you put those whiteboards out and you're like, hey, let's ideate. And they're like, what? Well, I forced my board through this activity. And I was like, oh, we had some big things to talk about. So I was like, I'll do an icebreaker. I'm going to be like, oh, haha, do you call yourself a grape grower or a farmer? How do you refer to yourself? 3 hours later, we're still debating farmer versus grape grower.
Wow.
Right? And I'm like, holy crap. Like, we're not getting to anything I really wanted to talk about today, but this is super interesting. And so I think what I observed in Sonoma County specifically, and Steve talked to it about, farming prunes and then apples and now wine grapes, is with the multi-generational farmers, they're farmers because they acknowledge that their ranch, their farm, wasn't always wine grapes. If you have some of the younger, newer, because you asked about that, some of the younger coming in that all they knew, or maybe their family moved to the community to specifically grow grapes, they're like, I'm a grape grower and I grow wine grapes, not just any grape, I'm a wine grape grower, right? Because that's their sense of pride. So then I asked the pinnacle question around, well, if you couldn't, grow and make money on wine grapes, what would you do? And no offense to my banker friends out there. I'm like, but are you putting on a suit and you're going to go work at Wells Fargo or Bank of America? And they're like, oh my God, no, I'd figure out, don't take me off my tractor. I'm going to be in the dirt. I'd figure out something else to farm.
Yep.
So I'm a farmer. So we kind of said, we actually developed in this flip 3-hour conversation that was supposed to take 10 minutes. We actually wrote this whole creed, kind of our motto, which was like, we're farmers first. Today we're grape growers. Today we grow wine grapes. And I think it really talked to the DNA of our community, and they're farmers and they don't want to be bankers, for the record.
Yeah,
that's what I learned that day.
Nobody wants to be a banker.
Sorry, we need you, bankers. That's not personal.
I don't know.
We need you.
They really aren't all that important.
We didn't say that. Sonoma County thinks you're important.
I can take a stab. That's all right. So we've had a really fun conversation, and I appreciate you taking the time to tell us not only the story of the ranch, but the story of the county and all
Love
of
it.
the farmers in that area. But we do like to wrap our episodes up with the same question, to where we can put a compilation together, 6 or 7, 8 months down the road.
Perfect.
And the question that we've been asking most recently, I'll give you a chance to think about it while I kind of wrap up, is as you go to learn something new, what have you discovered in the past has helped you learn it the fastest? What's allowed you to pick up something new the quickest? So if we wanted to go learn about biologicals, I want our listeners to have a tool from other experiences on how they could go and effectively maybe learn this much faster than usual. So think about that. But we had Steve Dutton and Karissa Kruse here as a part of our episode here at the World Ag Expo. And we went down a lot of different paths to learn a lot about wine making, grape growing, and the ability to have an association that provides support and enough buy-in that Karissa's safe every 5 years.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let you know when I need you to drum up some support for my next boat.
Yep, we will. We'll make sure you get a copy of the episode.
That would be great.
As far as that goes. But it's neat to see that this county is so diverse and has over 1,800 wine growers. I couldn't believe that the stats that I had on my sheet, she just rattled off, but of course she's great at her job. So, but when you look at this and you look at how they go about marketing their product to the entire world,
Yeah.
and reach out to find new and diverse ways to share their message to help educate the world around them, the consumers. Because if your industry can do it, your county can do it, a lot of our listeners can use their organizations to do the same for their commodity and what they're producing. So we appreciate you doing what you have been. It was neat to learn that there is more technology coming the way of high-value crops, and that's been done through partnerships.
Absolutely.
And that's something else our listeners can think about is look for strategic partnerships that might be outside of your organization to help bring that value into your members.
And I would say my best lesson is don't be afraid to cold call / cold email, cold text, which is frankly how we got to John Deere. I found a name on a press release and started badgering, and that got me finally to our great team that we're getting to work with here. So I think you just got to take the chance, right? Like the worst thing that happens, you get ghosted, and well, you don't let that happen because you just keep being annoying until they respond to you,
Well,
right?
now you sound like Dave.
Sorry, you're annoying, but we're in. We're totally
Same thing.
together
He's
here.
farther enough away from me. If I said
I
that
know,
about Corey,
right?
I'd get
I know.
the elbow.
What's going on here?
But it was exciting, and I appreciate you taking the time to provide our listeners with a little bit of value and a lot of story. And we thank you for
now you're
that.
putting us in the hot seat with your
time to
question.
answer.
Steve, you want to start, or you want me to?
I would say to answer your question is working with and talking to my other growers. Because a lot of us all have the same problems, so we talk together and try to figure out how to get
collaborating,
through it.
brainstorming,
absolutely,
network,
yes,
networking,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say for me, because I'll approach mine not from a farming standpoint, but from an association role. I have a great set of peers, a small group of peers that are all sort of CEOs, run different associations, not in farming. And we get together and we just chat. So I think that's the fastest way for us to think about how we're innovative, or like, oh, I didn't think about we should offer that education, or oh, you have a great person that could do that training for us. Oh, I'd love to get that information, or oh, I've never thought about a partnership in France or something else. So I think it's, you have to surround yourself with people that care about the things you care about and that are willing to share, because you really want to be in a room where people want to lift each other up and see the value that you all are benefiting and winning through that sharing of information and just friendship and, chance to vent, a chance to learn, a chance to just have someone, that is on your side and on your team to push forward. So I know I have that. It took me a while to develop it. I think it's a great way to invest your time is to find those people that you can lean on and collaborate and share ideas
Get
with.
the theme, boys.
I know, you like it?
I like it.
Relationships.
Collab.
Yep.
So as our listeners now are excited about Sonoma County wine,
Yes.
how and where do they go to learn more about it or get it?
Yeah, so SonomaWineGrape.org is how you get to our website. And from there, literally my personal email address is on there. If you want to cold email me, I'm open to it. I'm up for it. We'll take all collaborations and partnerships and connect you to any of the wineries or growers out there. That would be great to meet with and to create and curate a wonderful Sonoma County experience.
That's great.
What about
Guys,
social media?
Oh, at Sonoma Wine Grapes on Instagram, on YouTube, we're at Sonoma Wine Growers. We're just starting a YouTube channel, so all of the above, and then you can go to DuttonRanch.com and.
Yep. So we have a website, DuttonRanch.com, DuttonGoldfield.com, which happy to sell you wine and send it wherever you want it to go.
Is that like if we're at a grocery store in Iowa in the Midwest and we don't see your wine, what's the best way
You
to
should
get
raise
it there?
holy hell.
Yeah, no, it'd be to contact the winery directly.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be because not every store, not every outlet's going to have the wine.
Well, I mean, there's just so many kinds. Like you gotta go to a fancy restaurant and there's a separate menu just for the wine.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you even pick?
Yes.
I mean, I
You
think
look for Sonoma County.
No, I just told you how to pick.
Yeah.
Look for Dutton Ranch.
start by looking if not that
Russian
Sonoma
River
County.
Valley,
That's Sonoma County.
Sonoma County.
Yeah,
and then,
there you go.
Then California.
Yes, thank you for doing that. Yes.
No,
great.
but I think you should rally some of your listeners and invite us to Iowa, and we'll come do a wine tasting for you there.
I think that as these mics get turned off, there's probably already going to be a conversation about that. So
I like that.
Oh, Dave, you got to ask your question about this.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
here we go. Oh,
So
wow.
I do wine auctions because I'm an auctioneer, and every time I'm at a fundraising auction,
and he makes everything up as he goes.
a guy told me this. He
Chief
says
BSer, I already figured that out.
the deeper the hole on the bottom, the better the wine. Any truth to that?
I want Kiowa. You have got to get the picture of Steve's face when you edit this clip. I want Dave on top and I want Steve on the
They said
bottom
it was
because
flat.
that
They said,
face.
"No,
That was-
the best stuff. Is like it's a big cavern underneath. So.
Wow, you've been marketed to.
All right, fair enough.
There's someone like me out there being like, I totally got him.
I just figured it was more expensive wine because there was less in the bottle. They made the bottle more.
Yeah, there's your what is it, shrinkation or whatever it's going into
shrinkflation.
inflation,
Yeah,
shrinkflation,
shrinkflation.
shrinkflation.
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is
The
again.
punt is shrinkflation.
Our true fans from Deer heard it yesterday.
Yeah.
And we said that we're going to make a bottle that the hole's going to go all the way to the
All the way
lid.
up to the top.
So unfortunately, when you pour it out, you only get one glass.
Yeah,
It's just all
I
that's
love
left.
it. Same price though.
Yeah.
Same price. There you go.
We liked. Wow. See this collaboration is
Yep.
already like returning for us. So
Yep.
thanks for
Perfect.
that.
The only fancy bottle out there.
No one marketed it as like very exclusive.
Exclusive.
Very, very exclusive. So
That's great. But yes, thank you so much again.
So much fun. Thanks
It'll
for
be
having
exciting
us.
for our listeners to go check you out. We enjoyed being here in California, and it's because of people like you guys. So
super fun.
thanks for telling a couple of Iowa kids.
Yeah,
can we
Nebraska farmland's more valuable, right? Is that what I took away from this?
Well, we're going on a
Did I just
great
get cut off?
pitch.
My mic just got cut.
Yeah,
Hello?
I think we want to put numbers to it. It's not more valuable.
No. Sadly, I know. Sadly, I know.
That's great. But everybody, thanks for listening here live at the show. Listeners, we thank you for sticking around this entire show. Until next time, have a good one.